Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to the videos. Another paid request, this time from Michael. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for a film from 1998 called Meet the Deedles. Which, I gotta be honest, I was actually kind of curious about this because I had heard of this film. It does star the late Paul Walker, very early role from him. I mean, this is before the first Fast and Furious movie. And this is around the time I think he was in what, Pleasantville and some other movies. Maybe that movie, The Stolls and stuff. It also has Steve Van Wormer. Steve Van Wormer, don't know who he is. John Ashton, who was partnered up with Judge Reinhold in Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. Those are the two cops helping Eddie Murphy's character. A.J. Lehner, who I remember from The People Under the Stairs. Great Wes Craven film. Robert Englund and Dennis Hopper, where Dennis Hopper's the main villain and Robert Englund is Dennis Hopper's henchman. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And it was an early role with Paul Walker, and it's Disney. So okay, it's gonna be silly, it's gonna be goofy, it's gonna be sort of Disney's. And it's also by DIC, DIC, which they did a lot of cartoons back in the day, like Inspector Gadget and a lot of other stuff. So this is one of the only films that I thought it was called Dick, but it's DIC, DIC. It's one of the only films they did. But okay, it's gonna be their take on Bill and Ted, or that type of stuff. And it's about two surfer guys. And that's what it is, about two surfer guys. They turn 18, fully legal, living regal. And they go out surfing, and they skip school, but then they get expelled. And their dad, which is Eric Braeden, who I recognize, he was on... I never watched this stuff, but I would always flip through it as a kid. They'd be like, okay, I'm passing. Soap operas like The Young and the Restless. Because, when I was a kid, you lived on a farm in Iowa in the middle of nowhere, and there's really not much to do because internet was not a thing, and you either watch a VHS tape or what's on the 4 channels you have. And 2 of them were CBS. So I'm like, what's on CBS? Soap opera, yeah, I'll pass. But so many times I flip, I would see that guy's face, Eric Braeden. He was also the main villain in The Ambulance, which is an underrated Larry Cohen film with Eric Roberts. He plays the dad, and he's like, you know what, you guys are spoiled. You're going to be sent to camp. They get sent to camp, but then the guy they meet is MC Gainey. He was the convict pilot in Con Air, among a lot of other stuff. He's crazy. Things get screwed up. They get separated after the car goes off the cliff. One leads to another. They find some clothes. They try to get the hell out of Dodge. They come across Yellowstone, and they're mistaken for the new park ranger recruits. And the head of that area is John Ashton. Meanwhile, Dennis Hopper plays a former park ranger that was humiliated, kicked out, wants revenge, by stealing Old Faithful, the geyser. And Robert Englund is his henchman, and he also has another henchman. And one of the ways they try to do it is to sit prairie dogs onto the camp, among other stuff. But Dennis Hopper owns a property and is trying to get the geysers to there so that people will go to his land and he'll make money and embarrass Yellowstone and whatever the fuck else. You know what? This is one of those films that I kind of went in going, okay, this is going to be silly, it's going to be stupid, it's going to be goofy, but you know what? With this cast and to see Paul Walker's one of those guys that when I first saw him, I'm like, who's this pretty boy? But I grew to like him. I grew to like his acting. Especially in, what was it, what was the movie? The one where it takes place in the car the whole time. Damn, I forget what it was called. Vehicle 19 or something. I thought it was kind of an interesting concept where Paul Walker rents his car, and then the entire movie's action movie is filmed within the inside of the car and never leaves. I thought that was kind of a cool concept for that type of movie. I thought Paul Walker did a good job in that. It's actually a movie I would not mind revisiting someday. Hours, fantastic drama. Loved it. Very underrated movie. Running Scared I enjoyed as well. So even Brick Mansions I liked. So he's doing these films that I ended up enjoying, and I'm like, liking him more and more. And then sadly, he passed away in a horrible accident, and it's a damn shame. So it is nice to see him early in his life and his career. It's nice to see that. Paul Walker and Steve Van Wormer didn't work too bad together. Seemed like the chemistry was fine enough. And the surfer lingo, I've honestly heard worse. You know, they're saying stuff like they see all these animals, they go, whoa, that's a bullweasel. Oh, that's a Bambi. Oh, that's a dead Pepe Le Pew. Or MC Danny, you know, that kind of made me smirk a bit. Or MC Danny's telling all this stuff and look at him. He's like, you guys have anything more to say? And Paul Walker's like, yeah, I got something to say. Turn. And MC Danny goes, oh no, and then that's when they go off the cliff. I thought that was kind of the way Paul Walker said that line. Yeah, I got something to say. Turn. For some reason that made me chuckle. But it's one of those movies as it keeps going, I'm like, are we only 40 minutes in? We're only halfway in? It's one of those films that feels a lot longer than it really is. And as it goes along, it got so much dumber and dumber and dumber that kind of charm that I was hoping to get out of it lessened a lot. A lot. And, you know, they have, when they go off down the cliff and they fly out, when they fly out, it's in bad CGI. Like you see them fly out of the car, and it's like a shot where they've going towards the screen, really bad CGI around them. Or these two ladies are hiking and camping, who you find out they are the actual park ranger recruits. They get holed up in a tree by a lion for days, eating pine cones. I'm like, I don't know, is this really meant to be funny or something? Okay. Sometimes there's some decent stunt work, like the two ride these electric skateboards and then they go down the curving roads on their back. I'm like, that's good, but then at other times there's some really bad CGI. The fucking end of the movie, where they stop Dennis Hopper's plan to steal the geyser to have his own, this time new faithful. They erupt out of the ground like a cork. And it's the three of them on the top of this geyser in terrible CGI that just looks fucking pathetic. I mean, they even do a pull my finger fart joke. Because as they're training, they're going down the cliff and they're going back. And I think he's even Paul Walker's like, hey, pull my finger. And he farts. And he's like, laugh. I'm like, what the hell, man? And you'll saying lines like, oh, she's a fiery hottie. Man, I'd love to be the Deedle in her haystack. Instead of the needle, Deedle, because her name is Deedles. And of course, the girl Paul Walker likes is the daughter of John Ashton, who runs the place. And John Ashton is the yelling, Deedles! You know, it's just kind of a waste of John Ashton You just see how he could do not just Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, but Midnight Run. He could be very funny. He's not given much to do here except yell. Robert Englund. I mean, you got Robert Englund being a henchman to Dennis Hopper, and just Robert Englund being a Southern guy. Bit of dumb Southern guy, hey, there, let's go, this, that. Just Robert Englund not used to his full potential. Neither was John Ashton. And also Dennis Hopper, rest in peace, man. But you want to talk about how shitty Super Mario Brothers was? That movie is 10 times better than this movie. I like the Super Mario Brothers movie. You're like, oh, that's the worst movie I've done. I'm like, no, this is close. This is way worse than Super Mario Brothers. And the two leads are stealing snacks from customers, and they're hired to hunt the prairie dogs, and Steve Van Wormer knows a bit more about computers, while Paul Walker's trying to get in the sack with this lady in this Disney movie. Oh, Paul Walker, he's talking with the lady, and she just flew down and cleaned up the helicopter. She's like, I gotta dry it. Oh, you need to do that. We're gonna do blow dry. And he starts the helicopter, and he's not able to control it. And she's gotta come in to bring the fucking chopper down. There's a bit where they're trying to get rid of the prairie dogs. So they come up with a plan to having this chemical formula and tying it to the prairie dog, who at this point has now become Paul Walker's pet. What the fuck was he named the pet? He named the prairie dog Teeny or something. So the prairie dog jumps out, runs off into a bus, and apparently this chemical will make people fart. So the whole bus comes out and people are farting. In fact, it was in the prairie dog bit for a bit. It was making the prairie dogs fart. But then it jumped out, and the prairie dog had the gas thing with him, went into a bus, and and then I'm like, fuck off, man. And this is a film where a little would go a long way, and it did not have nearly enough for a fucking running time. That was 90, 80 minutes. It really was a struggle to get through the movie. There's a bit where the animals had gotten loose earlier, including a lion and a bear. And I think the bear is Bart the Bear, which was an animal they used in a lot of movies. I think The Great Outdoors. I think it's the bear in that one. I think this is the last film that bear did before it passed away. And there's a bit where it's supposed to be the bear at this party, but it's obviously a guy in a cheap jack horseshit bear suit who's dancing at a party, and the owner's like, "Is that you?" I forget what accent he had. "It's not you, you come here." And the Bart the Bear, where in this case is a guy in a shitty costume going, doo-doo. I'm like, fuck. Oh my god. Man, I miss you, Paul Walker, but this might be the worst film you were in, man. Because I don't like some of those Fast and Furious movies, like Fast and Furious 4 or 7, but I would watch that over this. This is just... yeah, this is just painful. Maybe some people could get nostalgia out of this, but I didn't watch this back in the day. I watched this now for the first time, so there ain't no nostalgia. Sometimes the songs were, because I swear some of those songs I heard in like Tony Hawk's Pro Steer for PlayStation 1 and other avenues. Or like there's another bit where, because they think these two guys are other Park Ranger recruits, well, we got your files. This is what you like to eat, right? Earthworms and shit. And of course they don't. So the lady that Paul Walker likes goes, "Oh, teach me how to do that." So there's a bunch of gummy worms. "Oh, it's gummy worms, huh? You don't think I can handle it?" So they both grab real earthworms. They eat them, and they do the Lady and the Tramp thing with the spaghetti, you know, but it's with an earthworm, where they both have the same earthworm in their mouth and they kiss and went, "Really? Oh my fucking god, man." This is just a series of lamer and lamer dads trying to make up this plot and story. And hey, I like silly, goofy movies. I love the Harold and Kumar trilogy. I like the first two Bill and Ted movies. I like Dude, Where's My Car? It's not that I'm against the silly stuff, but this is just... It wasn't that funny. Like I said, to begin with, there's a bit of the charm, the 90s, I grew up in that era. I know what the era's like. I mean, 98, I was, 15 years old. But man, I think even back then I would have hated this fucking film. And I did end up hating it, like, because the charm wore off, and it just was like, oh man. And the plot with Dennis Hopper and Robert Englund wanting to take the geyser and whatever. I'm like, what the fuck, man? But ultimately, they succeed. Like I said, I think Paul Walker and Steve Van Wormer did the best they could with the material they had. I think even this Paul Walker had a bit of that factor that could make him a star. So it was nice to watch one time at least to see that. So I don't think the two leads were bad in terms of acting. It's a terrible fucking script. And it was cool to see Robert Englund and Dennis Hopper, in the same frame together, working off each other. But Robert Englund, like I said, is not given much to do in terms of dialogue or character. At least he was wasted. And a lot of bad, lame jokes, one after the other after the other. And they succeed, and they get the land that Dennis Hopper had, so they make their own park, and their father's proud, and there you go. So, meet the Deedles. If you're a dire Paul Walker fan, sure, give it one watch at the very least. I'm glad I finally did see it at least one time. But yeah, it's... Maybe you get some good nature fun just from seeing Paul Walker and again, and maybe not 90s nostalgia, but this is more in the terms of like the Three Ninjas sequels, which I'm not a fan of. Or maybe even Surf Ninjas. Like, this is more in that realm. Because, I love, like, Ninja Turtles 1 and 2, but I hate Surf Ninjas. I like the first Three Ninjas. I can watch it, but I hate the sequels. I'm not a fan of the sequels. Sometimes there's a level where I just have to... Nah, I gotta stop here. That type of thing. Like I said, I like the Harold Kumar movies and Dude, Where's My Car and stuff, but here it's like... Yeah, I'm good. So... See it on your own volition and make your own opinion. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.